Finding your true north, the ancient art of living with purpose in a world of infinite choices. Have you ever woken up feeling like you're drifting through life without a clear direction, like you're surrounded by endless possibilities, but somehow paralyzed by the weight of choosing just one path? You're not alone in this struggle. In fact, this search for meaning represents one of humanity's most fundamental drives, and it's becoming increasingly complex in our modern world. Picture this: thousands of years ago, our ancestors faced relatively straightforward survival challenges. Find food, build shelter, protect the tribe. Purpose was clear and immediate. But as psychologist Eric Klinger discovered, our biological drive for purpose has evolved alongside our expanding cognitive abilities. What once was simple survival has transformed into an intricate web of possibilities that can leave us feeling overwhelmed and lost. Today, we don't just have a handful of clear, essential tasks to complete for our communities. Instead, we're faced with an almost infinite array of potential roles, careers, and life paths. Each option carries different levels of social significance, enjoyment, and financial reward. The global nature of our interconnected world means our potential impact can span continents, yet this very abundance of choice can become paralyzing. Adding to this complexity is time itself, that relentless clock ticking toward an unknown endpoint. From the moment we could barely walk, well-meaning adults asked us what we wanted to become when we grew up. Before we'd even developed a sense of self, society expected us to have our entire futures mapped out. This pressure, though often well-intentioned, creates an unrealistic expectation that we should have everything figured out by a certain age. But here's what those early questioners didn't tell us: having a sense of purpose, even one that's evolving, imperfect, or temporary, can dramatically transform our daily experience of life. It affects how we feel when we wake up each morning, how we navigate weekly challenges, and ultimately, how we'll reflect on our years when we look back on everything we've accomplished. So how do we navigate this maze of possibilities? How do we choose a direction that feels authentic and fulfilling? The answer might lie in an ancient Japanese concept that has guided people toward meaningful lives for over 1,000 years. The wisdom of Ikigai, your reason for being, deep in the history of Japan, dating back to the Heian period between 794 and 1185, a profound concept emerged that would eventually capture the attention of purpose seekers worldwide. This concept, known as Ikigai, translates roughly to reason for being, or life's purpose. Originally practiced primarily in Okinawa, Ikigai was first formally studied by Japanese psychiatrist Kemiya Miyako in the 1960s. The concept focuses on the dynamic relationship between meaningful activities and our experience of that meaning within our social context. As psychologist researchers in Hokkaido explain it, Ikigai relates to the sources that bring value to our lives and the feeling that our existence has meaning because of these sources. The results of living by Ikigai principles are remarkable. Okinawa has historically boasted one of the highest concentrations of centenarians in the world. People living past 100 years old. Perhaps even more telling, retirement is an uncommon concept there. People continue finding purpose and engagement in their activities well into their later years, suggesting that Ikigai contributes not just to longevity, but to a sustained sense of vitality throughout life. According to traditional Ikigai philosophy, we all possess this reason for being, but we often stray from it when we pursue activities that aren't properly aligned with key life domains. The concept emphasizes two primary objectives: achieving states of flow, that experience of being completely absorbed in activities, and providing genuine value to the world around us. Traditional Ikigai practice involves appreciating life's simple pleasures, living authentically, maintaining healthy routines, existing in harmony with both community and nature, and focusing on the present moment rather than constantly worrying about future outcomes. However, as this concept traveled westward and evolved in our modern context, it transformed into something more structured and career-focused. While this represents a departure from its original form, this modernized version offers practical guidance for contemporary life decisions. The four pillars of modern purpose. The popularized Western interpretation of Ikigai suggests that true purpose lies at the intersection of four crucial domains: Think of these as 4 overlapping circles, with your ideal life existing at their center point. First circle: what you're naturally good at. Discovering your natural abilities requires honest self-awareness and willingness to experiment. We're all born with different genetic makeups and shaped by unique environmental circumstances, creating distinct skill sets and capabilities. Some people have an intuitive understanding of numbers, others can read emotions effortlessly, and still others possess an uncanny ability to visualize spatial relationships. The key is recognizing these abilities and trusting your internal guidance system. Most of us have at least some awareness of our natural strengths, those activities that seem to flow through us almost effortlessly, as if we're channeling something from beyond our conscious control. These are the skills that emerge through play and experimentation, often surprising us with how naturally they develop. Second circle: what genuinely brings you joy. While we're often good at things we enjoy, this isn't always the case. You might excel at analytical tasks, but find them draining, or love creative pursuits, despite struggling with technical execution. For Ikigai, we need to identify where competence and passion intersect. The challenge here lies in honest self-assessment, while filtering out external pressures. Society, family expectations, and cultural norms often try to convince us that we should love certain pursuits more than others. Paradoxically, the harder we search for this intersection of skill and passion, the further we might drift from it. Writer Charles Bukowski, who didn't achieve success as an author until his 50s, once wrote, "We work too hard, we try too hard. Don't try, don't work. It's there, looking right at us, aching to kick out of the closed womb." His insight suggests that if we have to force ourselves to find or do something, perhaps it isn't the right path for us. Third circle: what the world actually needs. Here's where things become complicated. Some of our skills and interests might provide personal satisfaction without offering much value to others, and that's perfectly fine for hobbies and personal fulfillment. But for Ikigai, our chosen path must contribute something meaningful to the world in a sustainable way. The challenge in our complex modern world is determining what truly constitutes value. How many people claim they're making the world better, while actually providing products or services that create more problems than they solve? We're often terrible at objectively assessing genuine need versus manufactured demand. Certain roles make this assessment easier. First responders, healthcare workers, teachers, and construction workers provide clearly tangible benefits. But if your natural abilities and passions don't point toward these obvious choices, you're left relying on your best judgment and honest self-reflection about whether your work contributes positively to the world. Fourth circle: what can sustain you financially? An easy way to gauge potential value is through financial compensation. If people are willing to pay for something, it likely provides some benefit. However, this metric isn't perfect. Consider how essential teachers, nurses, and rescue workers are to society, yet they often receive relatively modest compensation. Conversely, some highly paid positions contribute questionable value to society. The Ikigai approach doesn't require becoming wealthy, quite the opposite, as the philosophy generally advocates for simpler, more intentional living. The goal is earning enough to live well and sustainably, not to accumulate excessive wealth. Finding your intersection: when you discover activities that exist at the intersection of all 4 domains, you've found your Ikigai. As authors Hector Garcia and Francesc Mireles explain, once you identify this intersection, it's only a matter of having the courage and making the effort to stay on the right path. Of course, this is much easier said than done. As we move through each domain, our options progressively narrow. The infinite realm of possibilities gradually shrinks to a focused set of choices and eventually to a single path. This narrowing process serves Ikigai's purpose of providing direction, but it can also create anxiety about making the wrong choice. Embracing the uncertainty, many of us struggle with this process of making significant life decisions and achieving genuine purpose. Sometimes, external circumstances beyond our control make the journey more difficult. But even under favorable conditions, the process involves fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. We might worry that our chosen path is incorrect, that our current interests won't sustain us long-term, or that we lack the necessary abilities, despite our best assessment. In our modern world, Both the paradox of choice and imposter syndrome are very real challenges. Here's a crucial truth: we'll never achieve perfect certainty. We'll never discover an ultimate purpose completely free from doubt and challenge. Whatever path we choose will include elements we dislike, and whatever life we build will carry moments of hardship and uncertainty. But we must choose nonetheless. As author Oliver Burkeman wisely notes, the conventional wisdom that settling is always wrong is itself wrong. You should definitely settle, he writes, or to be more precise, you don't have a choice, you will settle, and this fact ought to please you. Living fully requires commitment to specific choices. You cannot become exceptionally skilled in law, art, or politics without first settling on one of these fields and therefore foregoing the potential rewards of other careers. If you continuously switch between options, you'll excel in none of them. Your personal navigation system, Ikigai, functions as an ideal compass in a world without absolute direction. Our purpose largely depends on what we value and how we assess both ourselves and the world around us, deeply subjective and complex territory. Our purpose emerges from within us, built by us, from the raw materials of experience and reflection. Perhaps our ultimate purpose is simply to discover and define our own purpose. Maybe that quest alone, regardless of what we accomplish or achieve, provides sufficient meaning. Existence remains mysterious, and happiness often feels elusive. But the more we understand ourselves and our world, the better we become at finding activities and creating a life that feels genuinely fulfilling as often as possible. The ancient wisdom of Ikigai reminds us that purpose isn't a destination we reach, but a way of traveling through life. It's about aligning our natural gifts with our authentic passions, contributing meaningfully to the world, and sustaining ourselves in the process. In a world of infinite choices, perhaps the greatest choice we can make is to stop searching for the perfect path and instead commit to walking purposefully along the one that calls to us most clearly right now. Your Ikigai isn't waiting to be discovered somewhere out there. It's waiting to be created through your choices, your commitment, and your courage to live authentically in an uncertain world.